Can you hear me, Steve?
Yeah, hold on.
Oh, good. Okay.
Steve, go ahead and proceed. I'm going to step away from my desk for just 5 minutes and I'll return.
Okay. All right, everything is live and we're on record. It's on YouTube and I'm starting the webinar right now. So the only one I don't see is Mr. Lawrence. I'm not sure what happened to him. So we'll have to keep an eye out for him. Okay, I guess we're okay to start with Borough Property if you folks are ready. And I don't know what I do with my Borough Property agenda. This has been one crazy night and I'm also not feeling well. So, okay, can we start with Borough Property? Who's in charge of that? Tom, I'm sorry. Is it okay, Tom? Start with Borough Property?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I just have a couple of quick things. Well, I don't know how quick they are. I thought this would be a help for people who, in advance of the Finance Committee, are not sure what to do on two issues, doing the capital budgeting and also the bond issue, making decisions on that. So as an example, what I'm giving you are a couple of typical things that you do not normally see so that you understand why when you're looking at these various capital items or bond issue items, it's a little bit difficult and it means you have to take a little bit of time to look into something, okay? And I'm just using these as examples. I'm not asking for any decision on any of these things tonight, just as an example, and then we'll move on to something else. But there are a lot of things that you very often, put on a budget and then just don't realize you have it or don't see it because it's maybe not obvious or what have you. And well, I just lost my, hold on one second, I'm sorry.
This is Jack. I was able to join.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Okay, getting back to Borough Property, there are things like, for example, what I'm about to show on the screen. I gave you a copy of this attached to your agenda. This is one of the bleacher sections over at the ball fields next to the Rec Lodge. Now that bleacher seat has been fixed, but just as an example, when you're looking at different things in a capital budget or what have you, that may be something that you're not normally used to seeing because you're not at the ball fields. This is what some of the bleachers look like there. That's one reason why, for example, in the capital budget, I stuck in there a category for new aluminum bleachers. Some of the bleachers we have up there are fine, and some are like this. And even like here, you can see it's bowed, it's coming up. You can certainly replace all these with wood if you want to, as the guys did on that one that was broken down at this end where my mouse arrow is pointing. But again, that's something you're going to have to constantly do. So that's one of the things, one of the reasons why that's in the capital budget. When you're looking at the Rec Lodge, you don't see the basement of the Rec Lodge where we have a lot of material stored and really probably should invest in shelving or something like that to put this stuff in. This is where a lot of our, not all, but a lot of our permanent records are in the Rec Lodge. And as you can see, there are things in the lodge you may not notice. Like here's an exterior door at the bottom of the ramp that's in the budget right now in the capital plan, but it's obviously rusting away and needs replaced. It hasn't been approved for that yet. And here is a part of the downstairs area where we had water coming in. It's still open like this. You can still see into this area. Okay. So again, my point with all this isn't to get you to right away act on any of those items, but just to remind you as you're considering the bond issue and you're considering a new capital plan, that there are things like that that are out of sight or you may not necessarily notice, but that are in the capital plan or could be in a bond issue that you need to consider. I have a list of some other examples too. I'm not going to go through them all, but one of the things, for example, I've mentioned several times is the landscaping around the rec lodge. At one time, we did have a landscaper come in and upgrade that. But what typically will happen, and I don't have a picture of this, I forgot to put this up. In the spring, for example, on one of the raised beds, you'll see beautiful daffodils coming up. By the time somebody might get there for their picnic or party or wedding, it's not that beautiful. It's not terrible, but it's not that beautiful. So as you're thinking about things to put money into capital items or thinking about how you're going to spend bond issue money, I just want to call your attention to some things like the things I have on the list. I'm pointing over to my screen because that's the only place I have my agenda. Sorry about that. But anyway, that's the kind of things you need to be considering. Next week at Finance, we're going to start looking at that some more. And you were supposed to give some recommendations. I know a couple of you did to Ms. DeMarco as to how you wanted bond issue money spent, for example. But you should also take a look as we're working through the capital plan for 2022, look at other things like I just showed you on screen. Does anybody have any questions about that? Anything I'm not being clear about? Again, I'm not asking you to take action right now, just things you should be looking at, considering, thinking about. Okay, that's good. The other thing that I have on the list here is the bird sanctuary sign replacement issue. Well, you know what? Let me mention one other thing before that. Let me go to item C. Let me go to item C, and let me tell you that the Greensburg Pike sidewalk repair, the foreman will be on later on to talk about this under Public Works, but that is scheduled. It's on our outstanding items list. That is scheduled to be worked on tentatively this month. So I just wanted to point that out to you. I don't have anything new on the other three outstanding items issues. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Let me go to the bird sanctuary issue. Now, attached to your borough property agenda is, if I can share it here, this document that came from the Environmental Advisory Council. They're proposing a sign along with work that they're looking into as far as possibly a deck for viewing and things like that, that Dave will talk a little bit about during his report that he's been investigating for them. They'd like to approve a new sign for the Bird and Wildlife Sanctuary. And because, of course, it's a sign, even though it's replacing an existing sign, it looks different. And it looks like this. These are similar to the signs we have up here at the lodge area. And it's not something that they can just do because, of course, we have sign regulations. I don't know that this necessarily falls outside of that, but because it's in a residential area at the corner of Wilkins and Woodside, that's where the current sign is now. It's something that council also has to look into and talk about. But you can read the information they have there as to sign size and the information on what they estimate the cost will be. And that's attached to your agenda. So I know that there are two members of the Environmental Advisory Council attending tonight's meeting. If you wanted to have one of them explain it further, you can, or if you want to just read through that and consider it for a future meeting, that's fine too. It's up to you, but I wanted to point that out to you. So I just need to know where you want to go from there, or if you wanted to just consider it in the future.
And that was approved in the budget, money for
No, this is not in the budget right now. There is some money for the bird sanctuary in the budget. The sign necessarily wasn't part of that. I believe we stuck it in, there's two places in the budget. One is in capital and one is in general fund for the Environmental Advisory Council. I think the capital one is the one that includes some items that are related to the bird sanctuary, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think they had a recommendation for a viewing platform There was some other things discussed, but the terrain is so steep that the original concept of a ramp to a viewing area was not feasible. So they're looking at making a platform at the sidewalk level that kind of arches into the park a little bit to allow people to get off of the road and view into the sanctuary from the edge of the property. That, I think, is in a capital proposal. I think it was about $15,000.
They had budgeted 12,800, which is
That's
in
it.
there. Now, again, just like any capital item,
It
it's
hasn't
only
been
there
approved.
if you approve it. You
Right.
approve the overall concept of the capital plan, but not specific spending.
It was just on the sign issue. I mean, replacing signs shouldn't be a big deal. Patty, I don't know if there's a way to get that done this year. We have to wait till next year to put it in the budget to get it done. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, the sign that's there is pretty tacky. I mean, it's really in bad shape and hardly legible. So, replacing that would probably be a good indicator that there are things going on there. They're doing a cleanup there this weekend on Saturday from 9 to 10, if anybody's interested.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, if you just want to check with them again, maybe talk with Patty on the financial end about getting it, but I mean, it's a sign. We should be able to get it replaced.
Yeah, I think the sign might fit in the Environment Advisory Council budget for this year. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure there's enough money in there to do the sign itself.
It's possible.
It shouldn't be too much money.
Again, I hesitated to just say a simple answer here, though, because as you know, you have a sign ordinance. Now, the borough is always entitled to ignore their own ordinances. I mean, it's not something that is highly recommended, but you can do that. The solicitor has said that in the past, and again, they don't necessarily recommend it. So whether this sign meets the requirements of that district, I don't know. I haven't looked at that, and again, I forgot to print my own budgets, my own agenda, so I don't have all the details in front of me here, unfortunately.
No, you can check on that. We'll see. I mean, as long as that sign matches all the other, it looks pretty similar to all the other borough signs we have in borough areas. I mean, it's same.
Yeah, I like it. I like the sign. It looks really nice.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay. Well, then I'll check into that. I'll just double check things with Mr. Corbel, make sure we don't have any legal issues. And then if it is okay, what I would do is put it on an agenda for you guys to approve it, since it is potentially capital. It might fall under general fund too. I'd have to look at how much is there. It could go either way. But if you don't have any other comments or questions about it, that's all I have from my report for borough property.
Thanks, Steve. Rec board there.
Can I bring up one thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
And this doesn't need to be discussed at this time, but I would like it to be just considered for a future committee discussion, being that we're, we have to come up with the items on 3 and 5 year plans for the capital expenditures. And since we're talking of signs, the one outside of Forest Hills Pool on Braddock Road, the marquee sign, it's dated, it's in bad shape. I think it still works, but it could use an update. And again, this is nothing that is going to be decided on or funded immediately, but I do think it would be good to have an updated sign. And if we can put it on a 3 or 5 year plan, just make sure it aligns with our zoning, et cetera.
Yeah, definitely. When actually we were talking about this sign, it got me thinking. The rec board brought up about replacing making a new sign at the actual entrance to the pool itself. They could put announcements on it, things like that. And I think we had talked about it at one point and kind of it fell apart. I might have mentioned it real quick, but talking about that, we can put all this together.
Good.
Let me add something then. Okay, if the rec board has a recommendation, they need to start thinking about it and getting it in front of us soon. That's the first thing, because council starts working on a budget, staff starts working on a budget in August, and just like several things that happened this year, where all of a sudden in April I'm asked to look for money for something, they need to start thinking about this now, and they need to start thinking about it and giving me something in writing. And the same thing with the sign. If that's the same thing that's going to replace the sign that's at the pool entrance right now, that's fine. If it's going to be something different, or if somebody wants the exact same sign at the pool entrance and wants that upgraded, I need something in writing. Okay, I need something more. If I need an estimate, I need something that someone's giving me that shows what they're looking at and some kind of design. I don't want just somebody throwing at me that we want to put a sign up. What do you want is what I need to know, specifically, down to the last detail: size, lighting, lettering, electronic, LED, nothing like that, wooden. Those are the kind of things I need to know. So if it is coming from rec, then now they should start looking at it, because in August, I'm going to start handing out, and it is already almost August. I'm going to start handing out budget stuff, and that's when we start preparing the new budget. Capital items, we're working on them right now. If anybody has a capital item, I gave everybody forms. Fill out a form and give it to me, please. Okay, or at the very least, when I'm in the office during the day, sitting here, doing nothing, because I usually do that. In any case, you could call me and I'll grab one of those forms and put it on my screen, and I will fill it out as you dictate it to me over the phone for you. But I'd like to have a form filled out so we have everything in order, everything together, so it doesn't get lost or misplaced as something that was just mentioned at a meeting. Realize that I don't take as many notes at these meetings now that they're being recorded. So I don't necessarily have a lot of detail. Plus, I don't have time. I got people chatting at me while I'm here. I got people calling me on the phone. I got people, emails, trying to send me emails, even though I just shut that off. So I'm trying to do multiple things here while I'm also running this Zoom. So I would appreciate that consideration where you contact me if you don't feel like filling it out yourself. Am I being clear? I know I'm lecturing again. It's the teacher in me. I probably should have still been a teacher. Sorry about that. Am I being clear? I'm not upset with anybody. I hope nobody thinks I'm yelling at you. I'm not. I'm just saying I need, detailed information, just so I have everything. Okay.
Real quick before we move on, there was a comment from Angelo in the chat here that he would think that sign would come out of the Environmental Advisory Council's quarterly budget, not the capital budget. You just want to.
And it might, if we want to pause right now, I'll be happy to page through the budget and try to find things, but I don't think you want to do that.
No.
Quick overview.
We can talk about this under finance next week if necessary. I'll look into it before then and make sure we have all the things categorized correctly before then.
Yeah, I don't even know how much money was approved. It's a yearly budget, how much was approved for the year for them.
Yeah, there's a separate line item in the general fund I thought it was more for general Environmental Advisory Council items.
Yeah, and that's I just didn't know you touch on that, but I think you kind of hit on that. But yeah, you'll check on it. We'll be good. That's all, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Now, I think that brings us to Dave, engineer's report.
Thank you. I just have two items. Nothing new. The pickleball court resurfacing is part of our 2021 paving project. The project was divided into two phases. 4 streets were already done. This was not one of them. The DPW had some work to do at the old tennis courts / basketball courts. There was an issue with the drain. They tried to clean out the drain. They were not able to clean it out. So we're going to have to re-slope the courts. Instead of them draining to the drain in the center, they're going to slope towards the outside and just run off into the grass. But that and some catch basin issues on some of the streets were while the paving, that second phase of the paving project hasn't started yet, but it will be starting probably within the next week or two. So we will be paving the courts in the upcoming weeks. And Jim and I have talked several times about how that's going to happen and what needs to happen before that. I think they're preparing, like taking some of the fence down and getting the old tennis nets and the posts out of there. So we'll be ready for that when the paver comes back to do the paving. We're also doing the walkway leading into that from Fillmore. Second item I have concerns the bird sanctuary. As Steve mentioned, we did get some just one quote actually, just to give us an idea of what we're looking at budget-wise. To construct a deck off Woodside Road. The deck would extend 15 feet into the bird sanctuary for viewing of birds and wildlife. The quote came in at $18,200 for wood and $20,500 for Trex composite boards. As my understanding, that would be a 2022 project. Those prices are based on today's prices. The quotes are based on today's prices. Wood has actually come down slightly, not a whole lot. That will probably depend on what kind of hurricane season we have, whether wood prices stay in a reduction mode or if they continue, if they go back up. And the Trex composite boards have not changed in price over the last couple of weeks. So that can give you an idea of what you're looking at as far as range, 18 to 20,000 maximum for that deck for budgetary purposes. That's all I have to report unless there's any questions.
Oh, thanks, Dave. It takes us to the foreman's report. He's right here.
Yeah, the only thing I have is about Cook Park. There's 5 lights total up in Cook Park area. The ones off of Atlantic Avenue, we were able to repair, and with the grant, the donation that we had got a few years back, we put the new lights in. They are working, the ones on Atlantic Avenue end. We have 2 on the end down, they're right by actually the pickleball court area on that walkway we're going to resurface. We cannot get those working. We need to get a new service, a meter socket, and like a breaker box, the main electrical box, which sits up on Fillmore Road up there. I didn't get any prices yet, but if you thought this is something that you would want to do, I can start working on getting some prices on what this is going to cost. Because right now, those 2 lights at the bottom there do not work at all. They actually don't shine on the pickleball court. They're right outside of the pickleball court, like at the bottom of the walkway coming from Fillmore, and the walkway that comes from Sharon down in. That's all I have.
Anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, so Jim, I do. What are you asking to do, Jim?
I mean, if they thought this was something that they'd want to try to do this year, or they want to wait till next year, but we could throw this in the budget for next year, I guess. I just need to know if they want to do something with those. We have to hire an electrical company to take care of this. We can't do this in-house.
Maybe it's something we can think about. I don't have an opinion one way or the other, just hearing about it right now. Anybody else? Steve, he can talk to you about that some more. Get a little more
I think one thing that would be interesting to know is if it might be a safety issue to not have it lighted on that walkway. I don't know how frequently it's used after dark, but that might be an issue if there's a need for lighting for safety on the walkway.
Yeah, definitely something to consider. I think if nobody else has anything else on that, I think that wraps up borough property.
Okay, I can move to Public Works in a few seconds. If you give me a couple of seconds to switch my computer over. Okay, I'm ready. I'm sorry, I'm kind of handicapped because I forgot to print this. So I'm kind of trying to look at multiple screens here. I'm okay, Mr. Gorel, if you are.
I'm ready whenever you are, Steve.
Okay, the only thing I have is just an update from Three Rivers Wet Weather about the updated municipal consent orders that are being prepared. They're going to have a meeting. I'm not sure if I need to attend it or not. They say for managers and engineers next Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. I'm a little reluctant to go because that's a committee night for me, and I usually spend most of my day getting ready for committees. But I know the engineer has been going. I'm assuming that Bob Ziskow or somebody from Glenn will be there. So
Yes,
I'm
he
not-
will.
He will. So I may not try to go. I'm not exactly sure why managers need to be at this when I'm looking at that. But in any case, you can see what the status is in those. And I just wanted to point that out to you from Three Rivers Wet Weather. I don't have anything more about that. I really don't have any detail other than what's in there. So I'm done with my report.
Thanks, Steve. Dave, you want to give your report?
Sure, thank you. First item concerns the MS-40 pension pond project behind the Park and Ride lot. There's still no movement on that. DEP is still looking at the permit. DEP, as well as most state offices, are still working it from home for the most part. So that is expected to take longer than normal. And it normally would. Also, the County Conservation District, Allegheny County Conservation District, has some involvement and approval of that. They are also still working from home. The 2021 paving, as I said earlier, under the borough property, they have completed Fairview, Cedar, Lee, and Norway. They will return now that Public Works is completing their storm inlets work and the work at the pickleball court. They will be returning to do Braddock, Decatur, Avenue A, and the pickleball court. I believe, Jim, Public Works is done.
Yes, Dave. We finished today up in Cook Park. The only thing we have to have a tree to be finished removed on Decatur Avenue. And they're supposed to come tomorrow to do that. And then I'm going to call Joe and let him know he's going to notify Liberoni to come in.
Okay, very good. We'll get that on their schedule. Liberoni's current schedule, I believe, they're probably tied up for the next 2 weeks. I know we have a project in Turtle Creek that they're starting next week, so they probably won't be in until the end of July. The Fall Run Interceptor project that we've been discussing, it's an intermunicipal project with 7 communities. There is a memorandum of understanding that was approved by all the municipalities involved, and it is now circulating for municipal officials' signatures. So far, only Forest Hills and I believe Churchill have signed the memorandum, but we're probably waiting for monthly meetings to get all those signatures. And we're hoping to put the project out in the next 1 to 2 months, depending on what everybody signs the forms.
I did post a map for that in the council chamber.
Yes.
Both sides of the room. So if anyone wants to look at it, you can see the part of our borough property that's affected by those actions for that MS4.
Yes. Next item, on May 25th, we received a $19,800 grant to demolish 21 Marion Avenue, which was what we applied for last year. That house has since been sold at sheriff's sale and is going to be renovated. So if you want to change the address, we need a new address as soon as possible so that we can get the state to approve that and amend their contract.
Yeah, so Dawn's not on this call, I don't believe, correct?
No.
No, okay, so we need to get Dawn on that quickly so we can get another address in the back burner. But I will say that, Dave, that there's no process, there's no movement on that house in the last 3 to 4 months since the gentleman has purchased it. So I know that he said that he's going to be renovating it. He is trying to currently resell it. So I guess it's something we will need to watch as well.
Okay, we'll have to continue to monitor that then. I did talk to Dawn about it. I believe he sent, I think Dawn Branzel sent a letter to the current owner notifying him of violations there.
He did.
Push the issue, yes. I don't know if he got a response. But. All right, so we'll have to monitor that. There was a drainage problem that was reported last month at 1223 Brenton Road, which is a state road. Water from the road is entering the person's driveway and their front sidewalk, causing damage to the driveway. This was reported to PennDOT. PennDOT came out and viewed it with myself and Jim, and they agreed to look at it. And within a week and a half later, we got an email back from PennDOT saying that they were not going to do anything with it because they felt if they we recommended they put a curb up to push the water down to an inlet about 100 feet down the road. Their concern was that if they put a curb in, that it's just going to move the problem from that property to another property. I don't agree with that. So, in other words, PennDOT's not going to do anything to fix the problem. And they said it would have to be something that was looked at the next time they pave the road, which God knows when that'll be. So it's my recommendation that if you want, and Jim Thielacker and I discussed this, and Jimmy said he can go up there and put a curb in, even though it's not our road, just to address our residents' concern and rectify the problem. But we would need council's blessing to do that.
Dave, do you have a rough cost of that?
Jim?
It's probably the cost of a couple ton of asphalt. You know, you're probably looking at it maybe $200 at the most for material.
We should do it.
In a day or two of work?
Oh, no, we could probably do that in probably an hour. I mean, we got a little bit of cleanup work to do, and then we can put the curb in. So we're looking at, okay, maybe total an hour and a half.
I don't have an issue with that. If a resident's getting water in their house due to a street, I don't know if anyone else has an issue with that.
I have a comment. I'm concerned that if PennDOT has made that statement, that it's going to cause a problem somewhere else down the road. All right, that if we do this without making sure that that is not the case, we could then be in hot water because somebody else can come back and say, well, PennDOT told you that this was going to happen. So I want to make sure that we're assured that whatever we do is going to be appropriate and is not going to cause the problem that PennDOT has indicated and we're all aware of in terms of the possibility of that happening. So Dave, I need to have your assurance on this from my point of view, that this is not going to cause anything else.
Dave, is that next storm sewer? Isn't it before the next property address? Or before there could be another issue?
There's not another house that faces Brinson before
Correct.
The catch basin. It's to be the backyard of a house on probably Norway behind it. But there is a hillside there. If any water would jump the curb, it would go into their woods behind their house and not directly into a yard. But Jim, I believe it was your intent to run the curb all the way down to that catch basin, correct?
Yeah, or pretty close to it, Dave, because I think we just have to clean up a little bit because that curb's sort of high, right?
Yeah, there's an existing curb.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an existing curb right before the catch basin. So as long as we do that, then I can assure you that it's not going to cause any problem. I don't know why PennDOT thought it would. Maybe they're just being overly cautious, but I don't foresee any problems with the neighboring properties and pushing the problem somewhere else.
Question. I would like to ask that, Dave, could you please put a comment on the active transportation plan that there is drainage issues in that area on Brinton Road? Because that report will go to DOT and it will maybe exacerbate their attention a little bit.
Sure.
Thank you.
I will certainly note that.
Yep.
Okay, anything else on that item? If not, moving on. Cascade Road paving has been completed after the water line was done. That's been completed for several months. There was an issue with a sidewalk at 639 Cascade where the edge of the concrete was chipped. And the property owner initially said they would be okay with replacing that slab. Then they said they wanted the whole sidewalk replaced because it wouldn't match the color. They actually went back to the original request to just have that slab done. I had to have them sign a form saying that they would accept that, which they did. And I'm happy to report that the slab has been replaced and the issue has been corrected. I did talk to the property owner after that slab was replaced, and she said, well, they were a little sloppy with the concrete, but it is done and it does look better, and she's satisfied. So that I did let Wendy know. We were withholding payment for our half of the paying for that half of the road to be paved. We were withholding that until this problem was corrected. Now that it has been corrected, I've let Wendy know that she can go ahead and pay that bill. Final item that has just come up within the last week, and it's not on my report because it came up after I submitted it. Recently, about 2 years ago, we did some work at the Ashley Court Stormwater Retention Basin at the end of Ashley Court. The manhole where the water enters the basin and the basin itself was repaired and lined, actually rebuilt because it was built of corrugated galvanized steel, which had rusted out. Now we have a problem where the pipe leaves that basin. It has also rusted out and is collapsing and causing subsidence of driveways in the general vicinity of the access manhole. Jim was up there with, I believe one of the public works workers went in the access ladder and looked down the pipe and took some pictures. And there is some work that is necessary there. We're asking for authorization to begin design and put out the bid the repair of that storm sewer as it leaves the retention basin on Ashley Court. Jim, do you want to add anything to that?
No, you covered everything, Dave. Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you.
So Dave, maybe I don't understand this. So we rebuilt the entire catch basin and relined the entire pipe, but we missed this piece?
No, it's not a catch basin. It's underground storage tank.
The withholding tank, correct.
Mm-hmm. At the time we did that, the pipe was in good condition. That was maybe 3 years ago. I think it was 2019, 2 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years, I think, Dave.
3 years ago?
I think so.
Yeah, at the time, this was not a problem. This is something that just popped up. Jim, when was it reported to you?
We got a call in the spring, right at the end of winter here, and we went in and we did a little bit of investigating, but it was still cold out, and we thought it was just sinkage from before, from the last repair. But then when we got the call about it was probably 3 weeks ago, we stuck the TV camera in, and Benny had gotten down in the retention pond there, and it's the outlet pipe away, a little bit away from that area. It's like the overflow pipe. That's the one that's deteriorated.
Okay.
So is it okay with the committee if we begin that process?
I'm fine with it, Dave. I mean, that's if there's an issue like that and it could cause damage to residential properties. I mean, it's something we're going to have to get done.
That's the concern we have. There's two driveways involved, one of which is owned by an attorney. And I certainly don't want to see the borough subjected to any legal matters regarding subsidence of their driveway. I believe it is an Omni Stone driveway, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just a normal asphalt driveway. It's a fancy pavers. So I would certainly urge you to get it taken care of before it does cause any damage that could result in legal action.
Yes, I agree. We should too take care of that. We don't want legal action anymore. Yeah.
It would come out of the corrective action budget too, correct?
That's correct. It's a sewer issue. Okay, so if there's no objection to that, we'll,
I just have a quick comment. I don't like the thing because he's an attorney. It seems like we're fixing it because he's an attorney. We should fix it no matter what type of job the resident has. Just want to
That's true.
clarify. Thank you.
that's true.
I think that's all for Dave, right?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Foreman's report, Jimmy?
Okay, I got the list there of projects for this July. You can take a look at them. If you have any questions, please speak up here. Our first new employee for Public Works is working out real well. He's been with us, I think, 2.5 weeks now, 3 weeks now. And the second one is going to start next Monday. So think things are looking up with help here. The second item, number 2, we had in the capital budget for 2022 a new backhoe. Our current backhoe is 17 years old. It was purchased back in 2004. Over the last 6 months here, probably it was after we had done the budget, Steve and I, we're starting to have some serious problems with it. We got some electrical gremlins in it that are causing all kind of lights and buzzers and stuff to go off. We got a noise coming from the rear end when it gets hot. As you know, with cars and vehicles out there right now, you put an order in and you don't really know when you're going to get it. My last truck that I ordered, it took over a year to get here. And we still actually haven't got it yet. It's down at the Sabre Equipment. But anyway, I would like to move this purchase up to now to put the order in. We may not get it till 2022. But there's a chance we could get it maybe in November and December. The salesman said that there's a chance he has a couple on order. If he can latch on to one of them before they start making it and add the different things on that we want, there's a chance we could get it this year, but then there's a chance we may not get it till 2022 anyway. So the other thing is we use this every day. We crush the cardboard down with it up at the pool that everybody brings into the pool lot. We use it for the yard waste box to crush the brush into the yard waste box so we can get more in. We use it for digging up sanitary sewer manholes. We use it for storm sewer work. I mean, we use it all every day. It goes out to do something. We could take possibly the down payment or part of it could be taken out of your sewer fund if you wanted to, if you wish, or you don't have to do that. The total cost is $156,150. They're going to give us $20,000 trade-in on our old backhoe. So the price that we have is $136,150. The new machine will be a John Deere Extend-A-Hoe. So I'm just asking you your feelings and see what you think here.
I don't have an issue with that, especially if we're using it every day.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it as well.
If you're talking about a 5-year lease purchase, you're talking about them around $27,500 approximately each year. And we didn't budget that much for it. We budgeted $20,220. I just want to point that out.
It's about $7,500 extra a year.
Yeah, I mean, he even said, you know, with everything has gone up considerably over the last year here. because of what has happened. So this machine is purchased under the CoStar program. And we're actually getting the list price of the machine is actually $204,602, but then we get discounts, and like I said, we're getting the trade in, so it's at $136,750 when we're done.
We need to purchase this item. I think we just need to move on it and find the funds wherever we can find them. It could be capital, I don't know where we would go, but it's an item that you can't live without. So I would suggest we move on it and move on it soon.
I agree.
I agree as well. It's more a question how we pay for it, but not if we want it. And I actually had it in my bond plan. It fitted like neatly in, but obviously we will talk about that later. Because I think that's something which I think is perfect for a bond issue.
Yes.
I agree as well. We should get it as soon as possible.
I agree, and we can take that up in finance. You
happy, Jim?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I got one last item. Steve, and I think some of you folks on council, maybe everybody got a copy of this. Gail Evans sent a letter about the Avenue B steel steps, and they have really deteriorated. The main structure that the steps are supported by are okay. In other words, the concrete pylons, the main rails that run up both sides are okay. What it is every stair tread that's on there, and then they're anchored to the other rails have rusted. So, but it's beyond our capabilities to repair. So I just wanted to put that on your radar.
Patty, is this something that we could put into the Walkworks or one of those?
All of the crazy steps, all of those 12 stairways are going to be in the recommended catalyst projects. I actually met with Carol Reichbaum last Friday to get in line for a DCED grant to fund the repair of all of our 12 crazy steps as a project. We're going to have to get some estimates of what it would cost. But, I'd like to put in a request for whatever it will be. It'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 to repair all of those. So I would definitely include that letter in our argument about wanting to have that funded.
Yeah. Okay. So Steve, if we can move this, do you want to put this on committee of the whole and talk about this in the Walkworks and all the grants, or?
Yeah, that would probably be.
Or do you want me to leave it on Public Works? I mean, either or, it doesn't matter. You tell me.
It'll be implemented through Public Works, but I think we've got to find a way to fund it, and that's probably going to take committee of the whole action for the grant.
Okay, so Steve, can you add this to the committee of the whole so we don't forget about it or lose track of it? And yeah, I agree, Patty. I mean, it's going to be a decent chunk of change to update all of them, but it is something that is going to need to be done.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jim.
And that Avenue B one is particularly significant because it goes straight down into the business district, and it was pretty frequently used. I talked to the people who live there, Gail Potter and some of her neighbors, and they said they really miss having it because it really eliminates the ability to just run down the steps to the shops. You have to drive all the way around and park and everything, and it's a pretty convenient inner connection point that we don't want to lose that.
I agree. All good, Jimmy?
What? Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Steve, I think that concludes our report.
Okay, just give me a few seconds and we'll move on to ops.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm good to go for ops, Mr. Lawrence, if you're okay.
Yes, Mr. Morris, please.
Okay, I just have some announcements more than anything else here under my report. First, I want to remind you that Allison sent out a copy of a draft safety manual that was recommended by our insurance company to the safety committee. Please take a look at that. I'm going to include that on the agenda in August. If you didn't get it, you can email Allison back or me, but I think it came out about a week to 10 days ago that she sent it to you. Second item, citizen engagement intern. Our intern's nearly finished with a recommendation on service applications that could be used to engage citizens. In addition to, or perhaps along with, or perhaps instead of SwiftReach, we're not sure yet. That would be, of course, something that you would look into, not us. But he's going to have a report ready soon, and he may show up at one of the committee meetings coming up to do that. Once he's finished with that report, then we're going to move him into the WalkWorks active transportation plan work that Ms. DeMarco has been using, has been doing. Right now, Mr. Bioki and Mr. Lawrence have been working with him along with myself as part of that citizen engagement committee to do this part of it. And he's put in a little more than half of his hours, so we're pretty much on track with him. Doing a good job. We meet regularly. He also meets with Mr. Bioki regularly too. So that's good. I put item C, community yard sale, on here mainly because I didn't know if this was something you would want to consider. I experienced one of these where my my son and daughter-in-law and granddaughter live in New Florence just about 2 weeks ago, where they had a community-wide yard sale, and wow, it was pretty busy for a small town that's right along Route 711, just south of the Conemaugh River. Even back in where the kids live, there were people coming back in. They're going to take a look at different things. Now, I realize there are already garage sales and yard sales that go on in different parts of the community. I know Bryn Mawr does something, or they used to. I don't know if they will still do that periodically every year, I think, usually in the fall. But this lady who is a new resident, Bria Neary, sent us contacted us through the website, and she was interested in working on that if anybody was interested in pursuing that. I didn't know, of course, that would really be whether council wants to do, well, not that you want to sponsor, but that I don't think I should just make that decision for something like that. That should be something that you would want. We could have her investigate it if you're interested and see if it's something that's worth trying. I don't know if it would bring a lot of people in from the area into Forest Hills and into Forest Hills businesses or not. I guess it depends on how big it really would be. But in any case, if you're interested, think about it, and I can pass that on to her. Marcus?
Do we know where she lives? Because Edgewood Acres has a big yard sale every year, like you said, in Auckland.
Oh, that's right. I said Bryn Mawr. I meant Edgewood Acres.
So maybe we can just hook her up with those people.
Yeah, I don't know where she lives. She didn't give us an address. She just gave us a contact phone number. So I'll do that. I'll contact her and see. Do you know of anybody in particular that runs that she would want to talk to?
I don't live in Edgewood Acres, but
right, I know. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me at least see what she has in mind, and then I'll pass it on further to you folks if there is anything else. Comcast agreement, that's still ongoing. Cohen is still reviewing it. As you know, we did that public comment period last month, and there were no comments. We didn't necessarily expect any, but you never know. So they are still working on that with Comcast, and that, of course, will be in front of you to review once they are finished. And then the only other thing, I know we're doing, obviously, Zoom tonight and Zoom next Tuesday. Hopefully it won't be as crazy as tonight was. I know a lot of you had trouble getting in or getting the email, and I don't know why, because some didn't. Maybe about half of you got the email fine, and the rest of you, I sent it 3 and 4 and 5 times and didn't get it. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there. But I will send this out for next week. at least by next Monday. But I guess I just need to know whenever you're ready, doesn't have to be tonight, could be next week, as to, are we going to continue doing this indefinitely, just so I can prepare and have Zoom and things like that ready to go. Just let me know. If you don't have anything to say about it tonight, I'll put it on committee of the whole next week and we can talk about it there.
Okay. Anything else, Steve, before I address that?
I'm sorry, say it again, Jack.
Do you have anything else to cover? I want to
No.
mention things about.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Yeah, let's push it to Cal next week. Everybody give it some thought. I think there's two things that you might want to think about for next week. There's really two questions here. One is, the way I see it, one is, at what point do we stop this full bore Zoom for committee meetings and migrate back to on-ground meetings? The second thing I think you might want to think of is, at least two other council members, and I concur with this, think that we can get a couple lessons out of what we've done so far. And moving forward, yes, I think we all want to go back on ground and be together in the same room. But it is really helpful for those who, due to illness, travel, personal travel, whatever, are able to participate. I think it would be nice to explore the simplest way that we could use some kind of technology to allow, say, Marcus, when he's traveling, to participate in the meeting, not using the speakerphone, but something more along the lines of this Zoom platform. I would in no way propose that we would have citizens participating. It might be nice if they could dial in and listen from their home instead of trotting up to the borough building, because I think some people do that now. So anyhow, I think those are two things you might want to think about as we go forward, and talk about it next week.
I agree with Jack. Like, I'm this week on vacation and out of state, it's so much easier to do it. People wouldn't even know.
Yeah, because otherwise, well, I'm not in Pittsburgh either. And otherwise, we would just not be here participating in the meeting. And that's kind of, this is 2020. So, so give it some thought, but we also want to think about at what point we officially migrate from the way we're doing it now, full 100% remote. Okay.
Can I make
Yes.
one suggestion? Steve, you should talk
Please.
to Angelo, our IT guy, if he has some ideas, if there's some easy way to do that.
Yeah, I just actually talked with Hollywood last week. I have talked to Mike Joseph, our IT person. Angelo has also assisted as part of his duties with the website and general knowledge. So we're looking at it and we're looking to see what we have. Again, my only concern is how we manage it and who manages it. But let's get to a point and see what we can do first, and then we'll worry about managing it later.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I did talk to Angelo, and he said you guys were looking at these things. Next thing, I don't want to drag this out. To let you know, the trash recycling contract will be up for bid, and we'll start a new one on in January 2021. I asked Mr. Corbel to run up a draft contract. Hopefully, we'll get that for the August meeting, if not September. Just to let you know what's happening here. Now, I did ask the EAC to consider any issues they had. They came up with some questions, but just to let you know, the main issue or change that's going to happen in this contract is they are going to officially stop taking glass in the single stream recycling buckets. That's just a given. We need to move on. As far as handling glass recycling, what we're going to do is put into the bid request two things. We would like them to propose some other solution for borough residents to recycle their glass. Ideally, it'd be nice to do what we're doing up at the pool with that cardboard. I don't know. We're just going to say in the bid we wouldn't want a proposal to that. if something like that is not possible, what other proposal do they have? So we're just not throwing glass in the trash. So we'll see. To let you guys know, that does not preclude the borough, particularly EAC, where there's some resources there, that we can, in parallel, find some other way to get rid of glass, along the lines of, getting someone else to bring in a dumpster so we dump glass. We're not sure. It's probably a little premature to put a lot of energy into that exploration until we find out what we can get with the bids that come through. And that could still go along in parallel, even if the winning bidder does have some proposals. So just quickly, that's where it is. Any questions on that?
Real quick, Jack, I would just like to state that I'm in favor as well of trying to find a way to deal with the glass. One of the problems you have with collection by the borough is monitoring and making sure that people just don't start throwing trash in there. I've been associated with a few different communities that have run into the problem and eliminated the program because it gets contaminated itself. So you start to try to do something positive, and because of the lack of enforcement, it turns into a mess and you end up having to get rid of it. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Yeah. And let me just pass this along. So you know how rumors get going. So if someone says to you, I'm going to explain what you might hear, tell them no. And here's the thing. There are communities out there, not in this region that I'm aware of, where the trash hauler is actually fining individuals and or the community for contaminated recycling bins. And now I talked to our present hauler and they said absolutely they do not do any of that. They have no plans for that. So if you hear somebody saying that there's going to be punitive fines and stuff like that, nip that in the bud, please. At some point, I think what they will do is basically start putting sticky notes or something equivalent to that on recycling bins that are filled with things that shouldn't be in there. But it's not going to be punitive. It's going to be educational. They may at some point choose not to empty that recycling bin. But just so you know, if someone comes to you with these tales, please put a stop to it. As you're probably aware, if you take a walk, people put everything in those recycling bins, absolutely everything. And that's not good. So,
can I make a comment, please?
Yes.
I think it should be made clear in our bid proposal that it's important to us to do something separate class at the pool or something. That it's not necessarily who is the lowest bidder, who gives us a complete package. It should be important to know for them that it's like a whole deal for us. So if they include class, it should be important to us. They should know.
Well,
that.
in the phrasing and the actual opening of the preliminary document is going to state that you have to meet our needs. So a lowest bid that does not meet needs does not meet needs.
Okay.
So what we really do is basically say, make a proposal, and then we determine, does that meet the need or not?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really know what we're going to get. I have a suspicion, but I don't know for sure. So
yeah, I don't know, like the construction junction, they have big glass recycling there. It seems to be working there, and it's not messy or anything at all. They even sort by color.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
like I said, and please.
Anything that we
Go
can
ahead.
do to encourage them to support source separation rather than mixed stream, I think would be helpful, because the biggest difficulty is when you get a mixed waste stream that's difficult to separate out. So if we can have them support our efforts to collect glass and cardboard and other recyclable materials separately, then that would be an important thing to put into the contract, even if we have to collect things on different days.
For this kind of situation.
Okay. Yeah, that's generally what the phrasing is.
Jack,
So.
I'd also like to look at putting in our next round of announcing our waste management contract an education outreach effort to the citizens about how the whole process works, and not just leave it to the company to send a flyer around. I think we need an education effort. And I know we did a couple of education efforts back a year or two where we had Waste Management come in and talk, as well as Pennsylvania Resources Council. And I think we need to look at doing that kind of thing again and making it more broadly available to people so they understand what we're trying to do and why.
Well, that's one of the, hopefully we'll have some better avenues after the intern has come up with some ideas.
Yep.
So that will be helpful. Okay, anything else? Then the last thing I want to bring up, this is I want to mention, before I get into what I want to propose here, this, what I'm mentioning, is non-personnel specific. It does not deal with any individual. It has to do with an ordinance we've got going that is out there. It basically says that, well, let me look at it here. Give me a second here. Ordinance 1403 shall entitle such temporarily disabled employees to continuation of his/her regular salary or wages during the period of such disability, but not in excess of 60 working days. This came up, I think, last month, and I would propose that we consider an ordinance that eliminates this extra privilege of this full pay for 60 working days. Now, the police get this, but that's a separate issue under state regulation. This is for our other employees. This 60-day perk, I guess I'd say, it's not the right term for it, does not align with present practices much anywhere. It is incurring quite a bit of an expense for the borough, and thus it's a tax liability. Unfortunately, it's also gone beyond the 60 days, but that's another issue. The other thing is to be aware of, if we keep this in there with that 60-day working thing, if someone comes back, gets back to work, and then at some period, short or long term, goes back on disability, that clock starts over and over again. And my own experience in working with workman's comp is a lot of times people come back, then they re-injure themselves, and they're in and out, in and out. And we could see this clock starting all the time. So I would like, if anyone has anyone's thoughts, I would like Mr. Morris to talk to Steve Corbel about making a change and eliminating that clause in the temporary disability ordinance. And then it could go to Cal next week and we could discuss it as a group.
Can I make a comment, please?
Sure.
I agree with you. And I was wondering, it doesn't seem to be like union negotiated. So why is it, I don't think we know, but I wonder how it even came about, that ordinance. Who put it in place and when, but I guess we don't know.
I have no idea why this was.
1971, it was put into place, and it
Wow.
probably had good intentions. I would like to,
Go ahead.
jump in here because I'm on number 4 with the disability ordinance. This is a problem that we're having. It needs to be addressed as soon as possible, in my opinion. And what I'd like to do is direct Mr. Corbel to come up with the language so that we can advertise it and vote on it on July 21st. It's a loophole that is financially hurting us. It's been misused. It's been misapplied. And maybe it had good intentions whenever it was put into place, but it is definitely a negative in terms of running the public works. So I would like to direct Mr. Morris to talk to Mr. Corbel and immediately move on this so that we can advertise it and vote on it on July 21st. It is an ordinance. It is not a contract issue.
Okay, and I believe we have a normal disability insurance already in place, like normal people have, like short-term and long-term disability insurance.
Sure.
That's kind of like extra icing on a cake. Like it's not something we don't have any coverage at all. We have the standard insurance like everyone else has. So it seems like really an add-on.
Yeah, Marcus, and then I'll just tell you quickly. Mr. Tomasic said this was 1971. That absolutely fits. In the late 60s, early 70s, there's a lot of move to provide these kind of benefits in the public sector. Okay, we are a long time past 1971, and we're no longer in alignment with common practice. So I agree. Let's ask Mr. Morris to talk to Mr. Corbel and get this moving.
Yeah, I agree as well. Should get it straightened out.
Okay. I don't have anything else unless anyone else has anything.
I have a number 4 on disability insurance. All I can tell you is some of these items have come to light, and we're going to have to take a look at this ordinance in detail. I'm sure that there will be some pushback from the Public Works, either as a group or as individuals, about this particular item that we're discussing at this time. And it may involve a discussion in exec session. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. But I'm sure this is going to be something that we are going to get involved in, and it really needs to be addressed. And the numbers that we're talking about are not a couple of $100. We're talking about tens of thousands. And we're going to have to deal with this issue. So thank you, Jack.
Thanks. Again, unless anybody has anything, I am finished for this
Jack,
committee.
Frank has
Actually,
a.
Jack, I have one thing.
Yes, Mr. Porco.
It's for committee and by extension, all of council. So, and I believe this is the appropriate committee to bring it under. When we were kind of coming up with our policies and procedures as it pertains to the pool, we had decided at that time to cap the number at 250 people in the pool, at any given time. And that also got extended to swim meets, right? Because of the fact that, and I think I believe what we did was we ended up coming up with a policy about capping guests at 2 persons per swimmer. Our swim team this year has seen a pretty substantial spike in membership. We have 106 kids on our swim team this year, which is fantastic from a growth standpoint. But it's also introduced some problems in terms of, at 2 people per swimmer, we're at 200 right there without the other team's swimmers, being factored in. Now, given that, I think what we can do, and I conferred with Keith Morris, who's kind of been our go-to subject matter experts on all things COVID related, to relax that number and do away with the restrictions at the pool. So that, swimmers and their families can attend these events. And also, quite frankly, even like on regular summer days, we don't have to cap admission anymore, because we are by far exceeding any of the minimum standards that are set forth by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania right now. So that's my ask. I can't unilaterally make that decision anymore, because I believe we rescinded the whole mayor emergency declaration. So that's going to have to come out of council. But I think it's, given the information that we've had and the statistics that I reviewed with Keith Morris, I think it's a safe ask, but I just want to kind of bring it up for review and discussion.
So what do you?
Very quickly, Jack, may I jump in
please.
here? I believe that what we've been doing all along, regardless of what was happening, is that Keith Morris has been our go-to guy. He's our connection and our link. So if he, even with our meetings and anything else, we defer to him to let us know what we can or can't do. And if he's accepting this, I think that we just go along with it and follow his directive.
So, Jack, to answer your question, the ask is, can I go manager to not enforce that 250 cap?
if
Hey.
you're just looking at the
Can I
option
just make a
policy-
comment too? Like, I agree with what Frank suggested, especially since Keith recommended it. So I'm in favor of it.
Well, I
I'm
was
sorry,
going to say,
you had a question?
I think, didn't the governor suspend the emergency declaration already?
Yeah.
I think they did, isn't that?
I don't
correct?
know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's irrelevant, right? Because I believe council acted on it at the June, meeting, right? At my request. So, so at this point, again, I can't unilaterally just tell Lynn, hey, we don't have to follow this anymore, right? I just want to do it the right way, which is to seek that from.
okay. Well, let me just put it, you asked the option policies. As far as I'm concerned, unless anyone else in the committee has a problem with it, that's why Keith is out there. We follow his directives. None of us are skilled in this. So unless I hear objections, I think you should go ahead and follow with both Marcus and Mr.
So then just to be
and
clear,
Bill-
I'm going to go ahead and draft an email to Lynn instructing her that we no longer have to follow that guidance unless we notify her otherwise, which would only be driven by sort of a spike in cases again, right?
All
Okay,
good
great.
then?
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, then I think that does conclude option policies.
Okay, I just need a few seconds again. If you'd hold on for a minute, please.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, I'm good, Marcus. And I really don't have any updates. I just have a reminder on there, which has been on there for a long time, so I don't have anything to say. So you can just move on from me. I'm good to go.
Okay, so next we have the regular monthly volunteer fire department bills. I think are exactly the normal stuff they have every month, utilities and stuff. So I'm okay with it.
I'm sorry, Marcus, can I interrupt you one second? I'm sorry. I just realized Frank, Chief Master Dre had asked to be on tonight too, and he is an attendee if you do need him to report. I was supposed to tell you that, and I forgot to do that. I'm sorry.
He can do when, like when we have our reports, he can do that. Tom and Jack, do you have any comments about the fire bills?
No comment. No comment.
I guess we have the EMS report next. So can you invite him to do his report?
I can. Hang on a moment.
Yeah, he's on, Frank.
Oh, he's
Frank,
on.
You're okay.
Hey, everybody.
You have report.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah,
We can hear you, Frank.
Okay. Pretty much business as usual. I'm happy to report that through the whole pandemic, we had 0 reported cases of COVID on things like that, return back to normal operations. Other than that, call volume is returned actually above normal at this point, so we're enjoying that. And we seem to have made it through the whole COVID shutdowns and stuff like that without any major financial issues. Unless anybody else has any questions, that's pretty much all I have to report.
No, I'm glad to hear that you went through that COVID pretty good. Thank you. And actually, I would like to keep the other chiefs as well. So can we skip step 4, and go to the chief of police, please? Just to keep them all together. Chuck, are you ready?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Earldner. My report is basically, I just want to let you know that as we talked about in the previous month's meeting with Greensburg Pike, we've been up there on all 3 shifts doing patrols and doing some traffic stops. We've monitored traffic. We've actually been able to tell that the speeds based on monitoring of cars. Again, it's not just a 1 shift thing. It's all 3 of our shifts that are up there. We've spoke to residents up there. They even offered their driveways for us to use to pull into, to watch the traffic go by and use that as our timing point. So we've gotten a lot of help from the residents up there. They've seen us up there. They've heard the sirens and the lights, and they're very appreciative of the effort we've been doing so far. Churchill, I've seen them up there more engaged as well. They've been up there a little more often as we requested them to jump in with us, and Wilkins as well, based on their locations down by Seville Square and a little further down the road. So everybody's kind of jumped in on this program, and we've gotten some help up there, and there's been certainly a lot more visibility, and I think everybody's getting the idea that we're up there, and we really have no intention to stop that at this point because, I think we're getting a lot of residents who are very happy to see us up there, and I think we're just going to stay with that as long as we can. Again, this time of year, there's a lot of people that walk up on the Greensburg Pike, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is, early in the morning, later in the evening, there's still people, throughout the day up there, and the weather's been so favorable that we've seen a really great increase in the amount of people with babies and dogs and just, a wide variety of travel up there on the Pike. So I've also given them the information about maybe if they wanted to consider doing the one lane situation, they can throw that out to their councils if they're interested in doing that. As you know, down in the lower part of Chalfont and on the Wilkins side, down near Chalfont, they only do have one lane of actual travel there because a lot of those residents that live down in that part of the Pike do not have driveways or garages to pull into. So again, I just wanted to give you a little quick report about that. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you for the update. Yeah, I think that permanent one lane, bike lane, whatever was proposed is something we definitely have to consider at some time. Do we have fire chief anything or Patty? Sorry.
Do you know if we're getting any traffic incident reports or traffic expectation reports based on the proposed Amazon installation in Churchill? Have you seen any traffic studies or been advised of any that we should know about?
I haven't seen anything as of yet. I know that there's still some issues of whether or not they're going to move forward with the project. I know there's a lot of people in Churchill who've had a negative response towards it. I think that's still up in the air. I don't know if they've actually done any traffic studies. I know they've talked about a substantial amount of truck traffic to move in and out of there, as that will be a distribution center. But again, I have no actual information. I will speak to the chief from Churchill to see if they've done anything preliminarily. I do know that they will probably be using that entranceway on the Greensburg Pike that's across from the Pace School. That hasn't been used for years, but they're probably going to reenact that area for additional traffic, whether it be for employees or, maybe for some smaller vehicles.
Would you keep us apprised of any information that you come across regarding any traffic expectations? I know that they're doing some decision-making about that shortly, but I haven't seen any studies of traffic flow, and I'm sure they have to do some at some point. So if you come across any, I'd appreciate knowing about them.
I'll check with them on that and see if they've gotten anything, and I'll forward it out. I mean, it's going to have a direct effect on us as well. So.
Yes.
And we have Frank. You raised your hand too. Did you do that earlier, or is it about that?
It's about that. I have been talking with Alex Graziani, the Churchill manager, quite extensively about that. I know they do have some studies and stuff there. I don't have access to it right now, but I'm sure if you ask him, he'll be more than happy to forward that over to you.
I will do that. Thank you.
Great to know. Thank you. All right. So Chuck, that was
there are traffic.
That's
there,
your
there is a
report?
traffic study available out there.
Chuck.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, there is a traffic study available out there. I've seen it. I don't know from where I got it, but it's out there, probably on the Churchill website.
Okay, we have to look it up. Okay, I don't think we have a fire chief reporter. We usually don't.
My dad's here. Doesn't matter.
Okay, so now we go back to our point 4 ordinance. Bill Tomasic.
Yeah, I would like to mention here a situation that came to my attention not too long ago. We had some signs that were on Vine Alley that said, do not enter, meaning that we had a one-way in that area. And I got some complaints from some of the public works people. They were concerned that they couldn't move the equipment around the building for fear of going down the one-way. There were some other issues as well that I don't want to get into at this particular point in time. But it caused some concern for their ability to work down there at the building. So the first thing I did was simply come up to Mr. Morris. We looked it up on the in our ordinances, and lo and behold, it wasn't an ordinance that produced a one-way. It was a no-through ordinance, no throughway, no through traffic. And I would assume that that would mean in both directions. The one-way obviously let people come up the other way as opposed to going down from top to bottom, or I guess that's north to south. The point I'm trying to get at is it's frustrating for the workers, and then it's frustrating for somebody like me who says, well, if that's a problem, why didn't somebody report it to us, to me as the president of council or to public safety, to address it so that we could have changed it? So it took us 5 minutes to look it up. We took down the signs, and now we are going to put up no through traffic signs, which is what the ordinance said in the first place. Reason for the ordinances is to help us control things, not to prevent us from doing the work as we need to. So even if you see, if there is an ordinance that you think is misapplied, then you have to bring it to our attention so that we can address it. Otherwise, we'd still have those signs up there and would still be having frustration in terms of our workers. So please, ordinances are meant to be followed, but we have to make sure that we put the right ones in. And I think
wait. Where are you referring to this at again?
Vine Alley.
Yeah. So this was addressed 4 years ago before I was even on council. Just so you're aware, this was whenever the Dunkin' Donuts was built down there, and my residents that were putting their garbage out were almost being hit by cars going to Dunkin' Donuts or cutting through there and getting onto Ardmore Boulevard. So the no through traffic doesn't work because they're not going through, they're going to Dunkin' Donuts. So that was always in Dunkin' Donuts ordinances or Dunkin' Donuts survey and traffic study. That was not to be an entrance to Dunkin' Donuts. So I came down and raised concern before I was even on council. So if that's going to happen, then I will make sure that all my residents show up to the next meeting to voice their concerns, as they can't even put trash out in their back or have their kids running around on the back because cars are flying down to go to Dunkin' Donuts. Not that it's ever even patrolled if we're going to go there, because everyone still cuts through there going down to the Ardmore Boulevard. So putting up no through traffic signs is actually going backwards, just so you're aware. And
that is the ordinance.
A public works guy that says he can't drive around the building when it says do not enter and he's doing his job, that's completely asinine. So whoever told you that, that's obviously a joke.
You're welcome.
Trust me. Trust me. Well, considering I own 4 now out of the 5 buildings in that first block, I will make sure that Bill Gorel, not Councilman Bill Gorel as a resident is at the next meeting. And you can promise that.
Wow, I'm sure glad you warned me. Let me restate it again. It is an ordinance that says no through traffic in both directions, not in one or the other.
There's no signs on the other side because there's no pole. You can't put a pole in the middle. You can't put a pole in the middle of the parking lot at the fire hall because the trucks wouldn't be able to get in or out of the driveway because there's all parking spaces there. So you're just order more signs like we did for Dunkin' Donuts that still don't work. So just keep ordering signs and wasting more tax dollars.
If our ordinance says no through traffic, that's what it is. And
it doesn't matter.
Okay, but you have every right to raise your point and come to the next.
Yeah, considering I own $600,000 of real estate in that block, yeah, I do have a concern for my residents' safety.
Okay, but
I do have a concern.
I mean, you are on council and you're like a resident, so like you have a conflict of interest. But you have every right as a resident to address your concerns. So we will look into it. But I think
I will.
Okay. because I was wondering how that sign got up to begin with. Maybe that was not properly done either. I don't know, but
There was always a do not enter sign there, Marcus. The sign, the do not enter sign was always there. The no through traffic was removed. I'll give you the backstory, the honest backstory. The no through traffic was removed because it said borough business only. So whenever the borough building moved up to Greensburg Pike, I told Jimmy Thielacker that needs to be removed because people were still using that for borough business. That's not borough business because our old borough building was no longer there. So the people that were coming down that alleyway, AKA our employees and our administrative staff or whatever, and using that as an access point to get into the parking lot, if they're coming down Marion, that was nothing wrong with that. But now that our borough building is no longer located there, the no through traffic, borough business only makes absolutely no sense. The do not enter signs have been there since I was born.
Our public
32
works
years ago.
people are borough business too, but yeah,
Right,
let's bring it up.
Marcus, you're missing the complete point. Our public works guys could drive around the building in any direction they want. They're doing their job. That's not the point. The point is to keep vehicles from using that as a throughway, one to Ardmore and two to Dunkin' Donuts. Because in Dunkin' Donuts study, and don't worry, I'll be doing my homework and I'll get it out. That it was not to be used as an entrance or an access point to get to Dunkin', only an exit point. That was it. So it's in the traffic study, and I will definitely be bringing it out.
All right, yeah, bring it up. You have every right to do that, and your residents too. All right, next. Do you have any other public safety items?
Nothing else.
Okay, I think that's it for today.
Can I just add one thing?
Yep.
In regards to that alleyway there, I know there's, with the increase of traffic, we have had some more close incidents with our ambulances pulling out. Would it be possible to have an emergency exit sign put up on the pole in front of our building and possibly one at the Halsey and Marion area?
I mean, we should definitely look into the whole thing. It sounds like a mess, so we will look into it. Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, we had something like that when the police was there. It said like only police business or something. There was something like that there.
Yeah, it's down at the lower entrance from behind the building, but there was never one up at Halsey and Marion or on Halsey and Vine.
Because I know it used to be some restriction when the police were parking there. So it was not a public street in the whole sense either. So we definitely have to look into it.
I mean, that roadway is right by my office. I see all the time. It's not necessarily Dunkin' traffic. It's people skipping the red light. They go straight through, right down to Greensburg Pike and make the right. So
yeah, and a lot of them come up through that area. All right, and then they go up the alley past your place.
Yes. I just, like I said, just concerned with the increase of traffic with our vehicles coming out there.
And it's a little alley. It's not supposed to be a street in that sense. So I agree. If there's too much traffic, we have to do something about it. But our public works people should have every right to do something, go up and down there with public trucks or with their private vehicles when they go back and forth to work. Okay, but we should look into it. So thanks, everyone.
Okay, I'm ending the meeting.
Okay.